Gnosticism wasn't a sudden invention. It was a gradual development drawing upon a rich tapestry of existing ideas. The ancient world was a marketplace of ideas where different philosophies and religious beliefs were being traded and debated. Gnosticism picked up elements from various philosophical and religious systems. To give you some examples, Hellenistic philosophy, which flourished in the period after the conquests of Alexander the Great, saw the rise of various schools of thought, including Platonism and Neoplatonism. Platonism, based on the teachings of Plato, emphasized the existence of a realm of perfect forms or ideas, of which the material world is merely an imperfect reflection. Neoplatonism further elaborated on this concept, theorizing a single ultimate source of being, the one from which all other things emanate. These philosophical systems, with their emphasis on dualism between the spiritual and material, the importance of knowledge, and the concept of a transcendent God, significantly influenced the development of Gnostic thought. Gnostics adapted and reinterpreted these philosophical ideas to fit their own religious framework, often identifying the Platonic forms with divine beings and the one with their supreme unknowable God. There are also mystery religions. These mystery religions were popular cults in the Hellenistic and Roman world that offered initiates secret knowledge and promises of spiritual rebirth or immortality. These cults, often characterized by elaborate initiation rituals and symbolic meals, typically focused on a particular deity, such as Dionysus, Isis, or Mithras. I just spoke about Mithras. Initiates were often sworn to secrecy about the cult's teachings and practices, which were believed to provide a deeper understanding of the divine and a path to personal transformation. Gnosticism shares several similarities with the mystery religions, including the emphasis on esoteric knowledge, the importance of ritual, and the concept of spiritual rebirth. Some scholars suggest that Gnosticism may have even drawn inspiration from these cults, adapting their structures and symbolism to its own unique theological framework. The relationship between Gnosticism and Jewish traditions is complex and debated. While Gnosticism was a distinct religious movement, some scholars argue that certain Gnostic ideas may have been influenced by Jewish mysticism and apocalyptic literature. To give you an example, the Gnostic concept of a flawed creator god, the demiurge, has been connected to interpretations of the Old Testament portrayal of Yahweh. Additionally, some Gnostic texts draw upon Old Testament figures and narratives, reinterpreting them with a Gnostic framework. But it's important to note that Gnosticism was ultimately a separate religious system from Judaism and many of its core beliefs, such as its dualistic cosmology and its emphasis on gnosis, which were incompatible with Jewish orthodoxy. Gnosticism emerged and developed within the context of early Christianity, and some scholars even argue that it initially rose as a form of early Christianity. Many Gnostic sects offered their own interpretation of the figure of Jesus Christ, often emphasizing his divine nature and downplaying his humanity. Some Gnostics held docetic views, believing that Christ's physical body was an illusion. These interpretations of Christ and the meaning of salvation differed significantly from the views that would eventually become Orthodox Christian doctrine. The interaction and conflict between Gnostic and Proto-Orthodox Christian beliefs played a significant role in the development of Christian theology in the early centuries. It's crucial to understand that Gnosticism wasn't a single unified religion. It was more likely a family of related ideas with different sects, developing their own unique interpretations and variations. Think of it not as one church, but as numerous independent philosophical religious schools, each with its own take on the core Gnostic themes. Some of these prominent examples include the Valentinians. It's probably the most influential Gnostic sect. It flourished from the 2nd to the 4th centuries. Founded by Valentinus, a prominent Gnostic teacher, they were known for their elaborate and complex cosmologies. Their system featured a hierarchy of divine beings called eons, which emanated from the supreme god, Bythos, or depth. These eons, often depicted in pairs, ziggies, male and female, interacted in complex ways, eventually leading to the creation of the material world by a flawed or ignorant demiurge. Valentinians often interpreted scripture allegorically, seeking hidden messages within the Bible text to support their cosmological and theological views. Their teachings emphasized the importance of gnosis for achieving salvation and union within the divine realm. The Valentinian system was highly developed and attracted a large following, posing a significant challenge to the emerging Orthodox Christian Church. And then you had the Sethians, which is another significant group, and they focused on the figure of Seth, who was the third son of Adam and Eve, as a divine being and the progenitor of a spiritual race. They viewed Seth as a representative of the divine light trapped in the material world. Sethian cosmology often drew upon biblical narratives, particularly the story of creation and the fall, but reinterpreted them with a Gnostic framework. They often distinguished between the true God and the creator God of the Old Testament, whom they also identified with the demiurge. Sethian texts, such as the Apocryphon of John, often feature complex mythologies and elaborate descriptions of the spiritual realm. Like other Gnostic groups, the Sethians emphasize the importance of Gnosis for achieving liberation from the material world and returning to the divine source. You also have the Basilidians, founded by Basilides in the 2nd century. They were another Gnostic sect known for their complex and distinct cosmology. Their system featured a series of emanations from the supreme God, culminating in the creation of the material world. Basilides' teachings place a strong emphasis on the importance of spiritual development and ethical living as a means of achieving Gnosis and liberation. While their cosmology was complex, they also stressed practical ethics and self-discipline as essential components of the spiritual path. Information about Basilidians comes largely from the writings of their opponents, as few of their own texts have survived. As noted, the diversity of these Gnostic sects underscores the multifaceted nature of Gnosticism. It wasn't a single unified heresy, but a complex and varied movement that presented a significant intellectual and spiritual challenge to early Christianity. The 1st to the 4th centuries AD was a period of profound transformation in the ancient world. The Hellenistic era, marked by the blending of Greek and Eastern cultures following Alexander the Great's conquests, had created a cosmopolitan environment where diverse religious and philosophical ideas circulated freely. This intellectual ferment fostered a spirit of inquiry and a hunger for deeper understanding of the cosmos and humanity's place within it. Traditional religions, often tied to specific city-states or ethnic groups, struggled to provide satisfying answers to the existential question that arose in this broader, more interconnected world. People were increasingly seeking personal spiritual experiences and a more direct connection to the divine, a yearning that traditional public cults, often focused on ritual and civic duty, failed to address. This spiritual hunger, combined with the intellectual curiosity fostered by Hellenistic philosophy, created a fertile ground for new religious movements to emerge and flourish. In this climate of spiritual seeking, Gnosticism offered a compelling alternative to traditional religious frameworks. Its emphasis on Gnosis resonated with those who felt that conventional faith lacked depth and meaning. Gnosticism presented itself not as a simple belief system, but as a path to true enlightenment, a way to unlock hidden truths about the universe and the divine. This emphasis on secret knowledge and personal revelation appealed to those who sought a more intimate and transformative religious experience. The mystery religions, with their emphasis on initiation, rituals, and hidden teachings, had already paved the way for acceptance of such esoteric traditions. Gnosticism went further, offering not just ritual and mystery, but a comprehensive philosophical and theological framework to explain the nature of reality and the path to salvation. The dramatic narrative of spiritual liberation offered by Gnosticism also held significant appeal in a world that often felt chaotic and uncertain. The Roman Empire, while powerful, was also prone to internal strife, political instability, and social upheaval. For many, life was a struggle against hardship, injustice, and the ever-present threat of death. Gnosticism provided a framework for understanding these challenges not as random occurrences, but as manifestations of the inherent flaws of the material world created by a lesser imperfect deity. This perspective offered a sense of meaning and purpose in the face of suffering, framing earthly existence as a temporary prison from which the soul could escape through Gnosis. The promise of ultimate freedom from the material realm and reunion with the true God offered hope and solace in a world that often seemed devoid of both. Gnosticism, in essence, was a religion for those who sought something more, something beyond the conventional understanding of faith. It appealed to those who were intellectually curious, spiritually restless, and dissatisfied with the answers offered by traditional religions. It provided a framework for understanding their place in the universe, a path to personal spiritual growth, and a promise of ultimate liberation. While Gnosticism eventually declined as a distinct movement, its influence can be seen in later mystical and philosophical traditions. Its emphasis on esoteric knowledge, personal revelation, and the inherent duality of existence continues to resonate with those who seek a deeper understanding of themselves and the world around them. In many ways, the questions that Gnosticism grappled with, the nature of good and evil, the origin of suffering, the search for meaning, are questions that continue to be asked by seekers across the ages.